Smee, his loyal right-hand man, stood beside him, an imposing figure with broad shoulders and a beard that seemed to hide half his face. His eyes, however, sparkled with a mix of admiration and confusion as he watched Hook rise and pace back and forth.
"Captain, you've been at this for hours. Perhaps we should take a break,"
Smee suggested, scratching his head.
"Nonsense, Smee,"
Hook snapped, his voice sharp as a dagger.
"That wretched boy has eluded me for far too long. I will not rest until Peter Pan is captured and brought to his end. Imagine the glory, the tales they'll tell of Captain Hook, the man who finally defeated the boy who never grew up."
He paused, his fingers drumming on the desk, then turned sharply to Smee.
"We need to know where Peter's hidden lair lies, the very heart of his domain. The Lost Boys will know, and I have just the pawn to extract that information."
With a flourish, Hook strode over to a large chest in the corner of the office. The chest creaked ominously as he opened it, revealing a battered and bruised lost boy named Harry, who was tied up and gagged. His wild hair was matted, and his eyes glinted with defiance despite the circumstances.
"Look at him, Smee,"
Hook said, a sly smile creeping onto his face.
"A perfect specimen of resilience. But resilience can be broken. We'll see just how tough he is when I apply a little pressure."
Smee looked uncertain, shifting his weight from one foot to the other.
"Are you sure that's wise, Captain? The boy looks like he's been through enough already."
"Wise? Oh, Smee, what do I care for wisdom when revenge is at hand?"
Hook replied, his voice rising with excitement. He leaned closer to the boy, narrowing his eyes.
"You listen well, lad. I have a simple question, and your life depends on how well you answer it. Where does Peter Pan sleep? Where can I find him?"
The boy's eyes widened in fear, and he shook his head vigorously, the gag muffling his protests. Hook's smile faded, replaced by a scowl.
"Very well," Hook said coldly. "If you wish to play the hero, prepare to face the consequences."
He gestured to Smee, who stepped forward, a hint of reluctance in his eyes.
"Well, Captain—"
"Silence!"
Hook barked.
"We do not have time for your hesitations. Let's begin the interrogation."
As Smee reached for the boy, Hook's thoughts spun with visions of victory. He could almost hear the cheers of his crew, the tales of his conquest echoing across the seas. All he needed was a clue, and then he would finally have the upper hand over Peter Pan.
"Now, let's get started, shall we?"
Hook said, his voice dripping with malice as the shadows of the room deepened around them. With a flick of his wrist, Captain Hook motioned for Smee to tighten the ropes around Harry's wrists, ensuring further discomfort. The boy squirmed, eyes wide with terror and determination, as he realized the gravity of his situation.
"Don't be foolish. You're only making things worse for yourself,"
Hook taunted, leaning closer, allowing his menacing presence to loom over the chest.
"I can assure you I have methods that will make you wish you had spoken sooner."
The boy continued to shake his head defiantly, his spirit unyielding despite his battered state. Hook admired that spirit, but it only fueled his anger further. He turned to Smee, who was watching nervously, and snapped,
"Bring me the tools from the galley."
Smee hesitated for a moment, glancing at the captive boy with a mixture of pity and fear.
"But, Captain, do we really need to resort to—"
"Do as I command, Smee,"
Hook interrupted, his voice echoing through the small office like a clap of thunder. Smee shuffled off to fetch the requested items, leaving Hook alone with the boy.
"Now, let's have a chat, shall we?"
Hook said, straightening up and adjusting his hat.
"You may think you're a brave little warrior, but bravery will only get you so far. I can make your life a living nightmare. Or I can make it slightly more pleasant. You have one chance. Choose wisely."
The boy's gaze, flickered to Hook's face, a mixture of fear and anger etched into his features. Hook continued.
Tell me Peter's hiding place, and I promise you'll be treated with a modicum of respect. I might even let you keep your precious life.
The boy's brow furrowed, and he seemed to weigh his options. Hook could see the conflict within him, a battle between loyalty to Peter and the instinct for survival. Moments later, Smee returned, carrying a small collection of kitchen utensils, a rolling pin, a couple of sharp knives, and a large wooden spoon. Hook's eyes gleamed with delight at the sight of the tools, an assortment that could turn the interrogation into a theatrical production.
Excellent, Smee. Now, let's see how long he can hold out,
Hook said, brandishing the rolling pin like a sword. With a dramatic flourish, Hook raised the pin to the boy's face, who recoiled instinctively.
You see, lad, it's all a game of persuasion. You can either tell me what I want to know, or I can make this rather unpleasant.
The boy's resolve began to crack, his breath quickening as he glanced at the tools before him.
I won't tell you anything,
he managed to say through the loose gag, his voice muffled but resolute.
Ah, the spirit of youth,
Hook mocked, lowering the rolling pin.
But remember, every hero has a breaking point. I'll give you a moment to reconsider while I prepare my methods.
As Hook turned away for a brief moment, Smee stepped closer to the boy, his expression softening.
Look, mate, you really don't want to go through with this. The captain can be, well, he's not exactly known for his kindness.
The boy shot Smee a glare, but the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes was evident. He breathed heavily, his thoughts racing. He knew he had to stay strong for Peter and the other lost boys, but the fear of the looming threat was palpable.
Enough of this chit-chat,
Hook shouted, spinning around again.
Time to play. You can start by telling me where Peter Pan's living quarters are. An easy task for a boy who wants to keep his skin intact.
As the tension in the room escalated, the boy's heart raced. He knew he had to think fast. With a surge of determination, he finally resolved to protect Peter at all costs.
You'll never find him,
he shouted defiantly, his voice breaking free from the gag, even if just for a moment. Hook's eyes narrowed, a dark smile spreading across his face.
Very well, then. I hope you're ready for what's coming next.
Just as Captain Hook leaned closer to the captive lost boy, the atmosphere charged with tension and anticipation. The door swung open with a loud crash. A crew member burst in, his face pale and eyes wide with urgency.
Captain, sir,
the crewman gasped, breathless from running.
You need to see this.
Hook's eyes flared with fury, his expression darkening as he turned sharply toward the intruder.
What is the meaning of this interruption?
He thundered, the rolling pin hovering dangerously close to the boy's face.
I was in the midst of a most important inquiry.
The crewman faltered, the sight of Hook's fury making him momentarily tremble.
I apologize, Captain, but it's urgent. I was using the telescope and I saw Peter Pan.
Hook's irritation shifted to intrigue, a fire igniting in his eyes.
What did you say?
He demanded, leaning closer, his previous intentions forgotten as he focused entirely on the crewman. The boy, tied up in the chest, felt a flicker of relief and a surge of emotion as he realized that perhaps fate had intervened in his favor.
Peter Pan and a few of the Lost Boys are flying high in the sky, headed east,
the crewman exclaimed, his voice breaking slightly with excitement.
East, you say?
Hook repeated, a smile creeping across his face, transforming his fury into exhilaration.
Do you mean to tell me they are flying right above us?
Aye, Captain, I swear it,
the crewman affirmed, his enthusiasm growing.
They were soaring just above the treetops, laughing and playing as they always do. We must act quickly.
Hook's mind raced, visions of finally capturing Peter Pan flooding his thoughts.
Smee!
He bellowed, spinning on his first mate, who had been anxiously waiting in the corner.
Prepare the rowboat and ready the crew to set sail immediately.
Smee jumped to attention and quickly headed above deck.
Aye, Captain, right away.
He rushed out of the office, shouting orders to the crew as Hook turned his attention back to the crewmen.
Why didn't you come in sooner?
Hook chastised, trying to suppress his excitement.
A moment wasted can cost us dearly.
I thought it best to confirm what I saw before disturbing you, sir,
the crewman stammered, his voice steadying as he saw Hook's anger dissipate.
I didn't want to interrupt your business.
Business? Ha!
Hook laughed, the sound rich and dark.
You've done well, my friend. This could be the very opportunity we've been waiting for.
The boy in the chest watched in disbelief as the pirate captain's demeanor shifted so quickly, the terror of the interrogation fading into the background.
Gather the crew,
Hook called, his voice booming with authority.
We shall follow that boy and capture him once and for all. No more games, no more delays. We will not let him slip through our fingers this time.
Shorten the course, Captain,
Smee shouted from outside, his voice echoing as he rallied the crew. With renewed energy, Hook turned back to the lost boy, a wicked grin on his face.
Consider yourself fortunate, lad. You've been spared for now. But don't think I've forgotten you. Once we've dealt with Peter Pan, we shall return to our little game.